What's up, y'all, and welcome to the channel. I'm not going to do too much of a long intro for real. Y'all see the thumbnail, y'all see the title of the video, and basically what I'm going to do here, at least to start off for this channel, is coming into the offseason, just basically outlooking everything each team did, going division by division, and then just talking about it real simple. Eventually, I'm going to stray into more, different type of topics surrounding the NBA, but this is just where we're going to start. And as you can see, this video, which should be the first one uploaded, we're going to the Pacific Division, as that one I feel like just got the most going on. And I'm going to start off talking about the Clippers because that's a team I feel like I got the most to talk about for real. So this offseason, the Clippers have lost Mason Plumlee and Paul George and Daniel Tice out of notable rotational people for real. And then they brought in Mo Bamba, they brought back Nick Batum, Cam Christie they drafted, they bring in Derrick Jones Jr., KPJ, and then they re-signed James Harden and Kai Jones. Now, coming straight off of free agency, I kind of had a decent amount of hope for the Clippers because I looked at the idea that if you have a healthy Kawhi, you always have sort of a chance. And not getting back Paul George questions that because it's like you can't really tank. I'm pretty sure they don't have a lot of draft capital right now. I'm going to actually check that. And yeah, I was right about that, where I knew the Clippers didn't have picks in the next couple of years, but they don't own any of their picks directly until 2030. So it just feels like you had to re-sign Paul George to stay as competitive as possible. But as I was saying earlier, like even with a healthy Kawhi, you feel like you have a chance, which is why I kind of like the KPJ signing, even though, I don't know legally the off the court stuff. I don't know in detail all that, so I'm not gonna talk about that. I'm just gonna talk straight basketball, where KPJ has been a good young player throughout his career, and I feel like getting the opportunity to come in and really not be a point guard, because that's what the Rockets had him, does give him the option to come in and maybe be like a close to 20 points per game scorer, especially considering Kawhi is probably gonna miss time. But I feel like all that kind of lost its value when Kawhi dropped out of the Olympics. Because if they're that concerned about that knee, even though every year since he's been saying there, we're talking one healthy offseason. Well, not one healthy postseason. I don't think we're going to get it. And they're good enough to be a competent team. But when you look at the West, like I'm going to assume they're going to be a playoff team. But it's hard for me to really say like that they will be. Because you look at the West, and the West is really 12 teams deep, really. I mean, you look at every team that was in the playoffs or the play-in last year, and then the Grizzlies are going to be back in the mix, and you can only expect the Rockets to be better. And it's just hard and the Spurs too. It's really hard for a team like the Clippers, especially unless Kawhi is playing 70 plus games, James Harden to give you 70 plus, for me to be comfortable with the idea of them being a playoff team. That really scares me for their foreseeable future. Next up, going across town, just to talk about the Lakers, which I feel like there's not really a lot to say about the Lakers as they didn't do anything this offseason. I mean, they re-signed LeBron, and then they drafted Bronny and Dalton Connect, which I'm not a draft expert. I'm aware of prospects. I have a good idea, but I'm not going to sit here and try to project what I think about them because I haven't watched enough to them to really know. Dalton Connect seems like a good player. He seems like someone who can be rotational immediately. And Bronny, it's the 55th pick, He hasn't looked good in Summer League from what I can tell. The idea was, ideally, I think his projection is to become a solid 3-and-D guard, kind of maybe a DeAnthony Melton would be the hope. I don't want to say a floor, but kind of a realistic kind of situation. But the threes have not been falling in Summer League. I don't know how much that'll translate to the real games, but, we'll hope. We'll have the best of hope for him because, I be feeling bad for Bronny. Because although he was probably only drafted because, obviously, LeBron, I think I don't even know what to say. I hope the best for Bronny. That's all I can say. Because right now, I don't think he's an NBA player. That's really all you can say about their offseason. They kept LeBron happy. Maybe bringing in Bronny will get LeBron happy enough. He really wants to win a ring with his son. He's gonna go 115% this season. That's really all you can say about their offseason because they haven't done anything. They're still under the second apron, which I guess it allows them flexibility that they'll probably be active at the deadline, but as of right now, they're just going to run it back and hope that JJ Redick's a good enough coach to get them to a top seed. I'm going to talk about the Suns next, I guess, where I don't know. I'm not in love with their offseason, but it feels okay, I guess, where they draft Ryan Dunn, and he's a prospect I'm aware of. Defensively, immediately can have an impact, maybe rotational, but offensively, I don't really know what that looks like for them. I mean, Monte Morris getting a real point guard and then Mason Plumlee getting a solid backup big, but it's like the team is still kind of And it's, once again, if Bradley Beal isn't hurt this season, I feel like they can look a lot better. Not even better, but their record will be better, so it'll be a little more respected. But it's hard for me to look at this team with, they can't really trade anybody, then cap space hell, because all their 5 starters, being the big 3, Nurkic and Grayson Allen, they're all under contract for multiple years, big contracts. Nobody really wants to trade for most of them, and any trade you are making is probably a Booker or a KD trade, and that's not a trade to contend. They can't trade up anything because how bad their cap situation is, but they also can't really trade down because they don't have draft picks until, just like the Clippers, 2030. And unfortunately, even though they're not looking to trade anybody, the Rockets making that deal with the Nets to get basically all the Phoenix picks, the Rockets are just going to hold Phoenix hostage until they decide, man, we just got to trade KD, or, I mean, maybe even Book, maybe. But, and it's just, there's nothing they can do about it. They're just stuck. And the worst part, their owner's kind of delusional, as at the beginning of the offseason, after they got eliminated, he said, 28 other teams. It might have been 26. I don't remember the actual exact number, but it was mid-20 amount of teams would want to have our situation, right? Trade player for player, pick for pick. They would rather be where we're at than where they're at. And I don't know how you get swept in the first round and you feel that as a not young team. Like, if OKC somehow got swept in the first round, they can be comfortable with their future. Y'all don't have a future. The now doesn't look good. And it's just, I don't know. Because at least with the Nets big 3, they had a lot of competent role players, which bringing in a Monte Morris, I feel like, helps the team look a little more competent, as well as Ryan Dunn. But objectively, I mean, we'll assume KD's about the same level. Devin Booker, probably worse than Nets James Harden, realistically. And Bradley Beal, out of all the 6 guys, is just by far the worst. And Bradley Beal is in such, not a bad situation, but I hate that situation for players like Bradley Beal, where it's similar to Tobias Harris. Not going to disrespect Bradley Beal. He's definitely a better player than Tobias Harris. Where you're the 3rd best player on your team, but you're also the 3rd best scorer. And the 2 guys above you do everything else better than you. So it's like, what do you really bring to the table? And especially on a Supermax with a no trade clause, the Suns are kind of cooked. Then we got the Golden State Warriors, which losing Clay is kind of a decently big thing. They also get rid of Chris Paul. They lose Dario Saric, which is kind of like you don't even lose too much value. You bring in D'Anthony Melton, solid. Buddy Hield, solid. Kyle Anderson feels kind of like a weird signing. I don't know what you're doing with Kyle Anderson, but I guess. And it just feels like whether it's a Lauri Markkanen trade, whether they can somehow get in on Ingram, which I highly doubt, because obviously the Pelicans really want a center, and the Warriors don't have a center to give up. The Warriors barely have a center at all. So it just feels like you have to probably get in on like the Lauri Markkanen sweepstakes to make a real push. Because even though I do think Draymond's suspension kind of had them lower in the standings where they would be, as I said with the Clippers and I would say it's mainly a Clippers concern than them, and then also the Kings when I get there. I feel like the Lakers and Suns are kind of safe to be respectable. Where you were the 10 seed last year, and even though, as I was saying, if Draymond doesn't get suspended, you're probably better than that. You look at the teams below you, automatically the Grizzlies are a playoff team, realistically. We would think, I'll say. We'll just see what Zach Edey looks like and kind of what their center position looks like, because that's still kind of questionable. But they look like they should be a real playoff team. And automatically, as the 10 seed, that means your spot's cooked. And you lose rotational players. You lose, 3 rotational players? Even though Dario Saric was kind of in and out, he wasn't really consistently in the rotation. He looked kind of bad at some stretches. And you bring in good players, but nobody moves the needle really. And it really scares me for their future, because I don't think Steph would ask out. But you're in a situation where it's just, and maybe Wiggins can have a comeback year. I know he was dealing with whatever he was dealing with last season. And if Wiggins has come back here, maybe that's enough to get you over the hump. But it just really feels like you're stuck. And Steph, at the end of his career, is going to have some end-of-career Kobe Lakers types of teams. Where it's just kind of sad and just kind of... I mean, they probably won't be that bad. But they're going to be bad. And it sucks to see for Steph. And lastly, as I was going over the Kings, which their major big move, I mean, they trade Davion Mitchell, who's kind of been especially as an older rookie, you would have hoped he would have continued on the right trajectory, looking like a real NBA player, but that offense just hasn't progressed to a point you love. Chris Duarte couldn't hit a shot, so he's gone. Harrison Barnes, you've been looking to move for a while. You finally got off of him. You draft Devin Carter. Seems decent. Once again, I'm not a draft expert. Seems like a guy who can maybe be rotational. Jordan McLaughlin, you bring in, once again, maybe that backup point guard spot. I mean, you kind of have a decent amount of guard play where it's probably not, but we'll see. But their one big move, obviously, is getting DeMar DeRozan. And it sucks because, as we saw last offseason, they didn't do a lot in the offseason because they were, the 3 seed in 2022, I want to say? Or 2023? I'm getting years messed up. But the year they made the playoffs, the light to being the first season, y'all know what I'm talking about. And last offseason, they don't do anything. They stay pat and they end up as a 9 seed tied with 10. So it's not like they were even clearly above it. And they don't make the playoffs. The DeMar DeRozan trade feels like a move that we just got to do something, which they did. So I'm not mad at it, but it's like, I don't know if, DeMar, I don't really love the fit. I mean, the clutch time offense is going to be great between him and De'Aaron. But once again, De'Aaron's not really much of a perimeter shooter. Sabonis isn't much of a shooter. And DeMar obviously doesn't shoot threes, really. So it's just hard to look at that. And I assume Keon Ellis starts at the 2. I assume Keegan Murray at the 4. It's not a good defensive team automatically. And I don't know if the offense is going to be elite enough to a point where you're a legitimate playoff team. So it just and it sucks because the Kings haven't done anything wrong, but it's I don't see any ways for them to really make another splash. I mean, there's still some Kuzma rumors and stuff, but I don't know who comes off the bench if they get Kuzma. Is it DeMar moving back to the 2 and then it's De'Aaron, DeMar, Kuzma, Keegan, and Sabonis? And even that sounds even worse because at least Keon Ellis will come in and play defense. I mean, Kuzma's not the worst defender in the world, but it's that's just a nasty starting 5. But it's just, I don't know. I'm happy they did something, but I don't think it'll be enough for them to really make any noise. They don't feel like a real contender. I struggle to see them as a playoff team right now. There's still time. There's still moves to make, but with how loaded the West is, anybody in this division, I could see missing the playoffs. I have the most realistic. I think the Suns and the Warriors the Suns and the Lakers are probably safe, but any team in this division I could easily see missing the playoffs, whether that's being a play-in team or as being just out completely.